Hi everyone, Soul Silver 17 here. Let me show as like usual. I do not own pictures, made the thumbnail, and does not pay video. So yeah, I'm back to this. I basically, how should I say this? I had the video of my previous, well, I made the part 3 of Jack Frost deku on Christmas Eve, and somehow, I don't know how, but like the file was basically corrupted. It just was. There was no sound, no like at all when I was basically listening to recording, and I was just like, "What the?" I was gonna upload today, and then a whole bunch of stuff happened, and then I was gonna try to get like so many videos out in one day because I've just been recording videos, as you know, when I'm sick. I made a couple, so I'm trying to get those out along with 2 new what ifs. One of them is just for the fun of it because I'm just like, hey, I want to see what I can do with this what if. I may drop it if I basically can't really do anything with it. It's my Percy Jackson what if. If I was in there, that was just for the fun of it. I mean, and I even have to put down a timestamp because I explained too much. So, yeah, I was just trying to have fun with that what if. I mean, overall, the explanation went too far. Took me like 6 minutes for that one. Well, over 6 minutes, like 6 minutes and 34 seconds. Well, because I had to explain a lot. Because it was like, why am I doing it? Here's the reasons. And what's going on in the story plot. So, yeah. It took me until like 1 hour and 40 minutes and something seconds just to even get to the Camp Half-Blood, and that's when I stopped. So I hope you guys will watch all of it. If not, then, oh well, what can I do? Anyways, I was just trying to think of what I was gonna say, but yeah. So if you guys don't remember, I'm gonna make a playlist of the Jack Frost deku, and then hopefully we'll get into it more later. Hope you guys will like this part because I just watched the previous one. So yeah. This is basically a redo of part 3. Somehow there was no sound at all. Still kind of peeved at that. Anyways, part 3 of Jack Frost deku. So yeah. So, Izuku was in the sports festival last part. And he also basically found out his quirk is a quirk and not a quirk. He basically fought Todoroki and Bakugo. He won. He's gonna go to Miriko's basically agency, pretty much. Okay, what else? Oh yeah. And plus he got his memories back. So, yep. Anyways, let's continue. Let's continue from basically the story. So as we all know, after the sports festival, we do basically will have like Deku, well, walking down basically a hall as then he sees basically Ida. Even though basically the ceremony took place while, and Ida got a call, we see Ida basically, just saying to himself, how could my brother be hurt, hurt badly by Stain? Which I would catch Izuku's attention, and he's like, think to himself, Stain? And before he could even ask Ida anything, he just sees Ida run off, basically to his brother. Izuku's like, well, I feel like there's going to be some serious moment here. And hopefully basically Ida's brother's alright. He's not badly hurt. As Izuku will basically walk off as, well, when he basically will get outside of the arena, he basically sees, well, Natsuo, Fuyumi, Toya, Rei, Todoroki, and Endeavor. And he basically was like, so, you guys were waiting for me? Which basically Fumi goes like, of course, you won the whole entire thing. We gotta celebrate it. Which basically Endeavor nods. He was like, so where would you want to go? Izuku just shrugs. We're like, let's go where we can all basically just eat as a family. In which basically Ray basically would smile and just nod. Wait, I think that's how her name said. Give me a minute. I was right. And basically, as I said, she would nod and basically suggest an area, which Izuku smirks and like, alright, let's go! As basically, before he could do anything, just basically Toyo's like, hey, no flying there. In which basically Izuku was like, you guys are no fun. Which basically Todoroki's like, if you fly, we both know you're gonna get in trouble with the law. Which Izuku's like, I'll be invisible, no one will see me. In which Endeavor's like, no, we're having family bonding time. And Izuku's like, great. The flaming trash bag wants to have bonding time. Oh, my day's ruined. As Endeavor's like, hey. As everyone has a smile and laugh. And so they do so. Rumi saw that from afar and decided not to basically, aka Mirko decided not to basically, interrupt it. So yeah, but we do go meanwhile to the heroes that were watched, the events and some basically other basically pros who knew something was off right away. In which Aizawa was like in a room with them. Let's say these are basically, how should I say this? Some heroes basically would be one of which Ryoko, the dragon hero, I would think would be there since I basically believe she would have been at least around the year where, well, not the same year, maybe a year or two older. When around the time where when basically Izuku came in in the first year along with Mirko and such. Basically a year or two, she would have basically recognized basically the look and kind of wanted answers on how he's even alive, and there's basically an explanation. And basically a couple of other heroes that were basically in the class that he was in, and wondering basically why has no one made a release of him, saying he's alive and such. They're just waiting for Mirko. As when she appears, Aizawa just sighs, like, alright, some of you have questions, like who he is and such, and some of you want to know how. As Ryoko, the dragon hero, I'm just going to say, if I say her name wrong, I know a lot of different characters, so of course I'm going to basically forget a couple of characters' names. So I'm just going to double check now. Yep, say the name right. Okay. Want to make sure. So yeah. So, as I said, she'll ask, how's he alive? In which basically Aizawa just sighs and like, it's complicated. As Mirko will go, yeah, I basically didn't believe it either at first. In which basically the people from the, Mirko and his class, Mirko and Zuko's class, like, what do you mean? Some basically the heroes I don't know are just saying like, what's the big deal? In which basically Ryoko would say, that's Izuku Todoroki. He died a long time ago. In which, before anything can happen, I would say, Nezu and Aizawa would say exactly the same time. Technically, yes, but no, he was saved. In which some of them were like, huh? Which, basically, I would say, as I said, it's complicated. Nezu and Nagi goes like, allow me to explain. The fact is, Izuku Todoroki did die. He was frozen solid by his own quirk. But someone saved him. He's technically, you could say, in a state of basically life and death. It's very complicated. We all thought he died instantly, but it was taking time. Due to basically this, phenomenon that's happened, he basically has turned into, you could say, a spirit that can become physical by basically with his own will. Even I don't understand it properly, only he does. Because this wasn't basically, the first time something happened like this before. It happened a long time ago. Give me a minute. Okay, sorry about that. Anyways, so, as after Nezu says that, we go to a flashback of 2 weeks ago. Basically the day after Izuku basically woke up and he was told about everyone basically knew he came to class, and he was told about, they were told about basically 2 weeks off. It was like the next day. As Sandman, Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy, and Santa Claus is there. As Nezu goes like, I see. No one's gonna believe this. Even I cannot fathom this. Which, basically, Easter Bunny goes like, not many people can. Tooth Fairy goes like, yep. Basically, he's the first one of his kind. Well, Jack basically did transfer all of his power to him, saving him. Which basically, Santa basically pats Tooth Fairy's back. And basically, Nezu goes like, again, I am sorry for your loss. Which Tooth Fairy says, it's alright. And Santa goes like, to be fair, Izuku was a good kid. Naughty, but still good. Which Aizawa was like, what do you mean? He was like, well, he has been on my naughty list. Same thing as Jack. Number 1, but he does things what his nature is. As Aizawa was like, nature? Which basically, I would say Tooth Fairy goes like, his center, what makes him him? Jack and him basically were all about having fun. So, he never takes anything seriously, he has fun while doing things, and, he basically makes everything out of a game. Which Aizawa was like, Which basically Easter Bunny's like, yeah, that's why Jack chose him. Besides, his his quirk was really, amazing to him. A lot of potential. Just can't believe it, though. Still surprised at what Jack did after basically the man on the moon told him. If you guys don't remember, you guys can go back to my part 1 after I make the, playlist. So, yeah. Anyways. So, basically, and as it goes, but still, he was on the brink of death, and then he was basically brought back. In turn, making him a spirit, such as the previous Jack, but because he was meant to become a guardian, no one could see him. So he's invisible to the naked eye of basically humans, or people, until basically he was believed in. But since Izuku was brought back through Jack's, interference, he basically can make himself visible even if no one believes him. In which basically Sandman nods. Again, I only watched part 2 to see where I was at, so I didn't watch part 1. But I believe that's how I made it. If not, then ignore this and just, like I said, go back to watching part 1. Just to make sure. Alright? Okay. Again, making the playlist. So, Aizawa just sighs and that's the reason why he has such good control over the element of ice and snow. He really is a problem child. As Nezu chuckles and be like, you have no idea, Aizawa. Recover Girl has a file based on how much, harm he did to himself because of his quirk. It became a permanent place for him to always be at after quirk training. Push himself beyond his limits. In which Aizawa would just sighs again and be like, no wonder why he has such great control over his ice. In which Santa Claus is like, well, after all, he basically was trying to surpass somebody, so why not train to your heart's content? And so, basically, after Nezu remembers that, he just sighs. They're like, I would tell you how he's back, but as I said, you would not believe me. Or, well, if I never did say that, I'm saying this now. You would not believe me if I told you. You would say it's all fake. In which, basically, Mirako just sighs. Are like, if I didn't know the truth, I would have said, yeah, you're just an imposter and try to fight him and then remember him, but I knew right away. Which some people were just about to say something, which Aizawa just says, look, you don't need to know because one, it's not up on our pay grade. The only reason why I know and Nezu knows because we need to understand how. And two, because of what he was doing at the USJ. As all you know, a vigilante came in for ice quirk. Well, you could say it's not 100% a lie since he was the vigilante. In which some of the heroes' eyes widen that basically, well, no, Izuku, as then they just nodded and someone says, yep, just like Todoroki, he rushed into danger without a second thought to save someone. That is him. Still can't believe it, though. I thought it was just an imposter. Which another person would say was, yeah. If he got that powerful, then... Jeez, I don't want to face him. I nearly got, well, flash burns once. Because I basically insulted him. As he looks at Mirako and looks away, he was like, and then he shivers. In which Mirako just smirks. He was like, yep, you never want to mess with Izuku when he's serious. In which Aizawa goes like, how's he like when he's serious? Which Mirako just looks at him with, without even, being serious, just like, let's just say, it's a rule why, basically, for a while, there was a place that had, well, ice around it for a good number of years. Which Aizawa's eyes widened, and he was like, damn. As when he was around, it was around the, when Izuku was about to leave school. His final year, if I remember correctly. It's final or second to near final. 11th and 12th grade, basically, high school. It's one of those two. Like I said, I didn't watch the first video, so I knew I made it where he's in his final year, or basically his 12th or 11th, grade year. So, yeah. And, basically, as Aizawa remembers, basically them being a field filled with ice, and that was used as a training area, but it took a very long time to unfreeze. So, Aizawa just sighs. And you think now, since he has this much control over ice, he's way dangerous. Just be lucky he ain't a villain. Which, a few people agreed, and some people shiver at that image. So, yeah. So, we do basically skip to the next day, but overall, Izuku and his family had fun. So, what happens is very simple. The next day, we do have basically everyone in basically the room, the classroom, just chatting, while Izuku is basically trying to figure out what he should do. As Aizawa comes in, he's like, alright everyone, here's the thing. We are going to be doing two things today. One, internships. you're gonna be choosing basically hero to go to the basically and learn under. 2 hero names. Now, first off, for basically the first part, I'm handing out these files with basically some heroes that want. Hold up. Good. Sorry about that. Had to sneeze. That want to basically have you at their agency to internship with. Alright? Which everyone nods. So everyone basically gets their exact same amount, which I think probably Jiro would notice Izuku not having any, which he's like, Jack? Which he's like, huh? Oh, yeah. She goes, what happened to your paper? He was like, I chose Mirako. Sensei already knows about it. Which basically as Aizawa heard this, he goes, yes, I was very informed that basically he chose Mirako to go to. Which basically Izuku smiles like, I won't cause no trouble. Where's the fun of that? Which basically Aizawa has an eye twitch. He's like, you're gonna cause a massive amount of trouble, are you? He goes, who knows? I never know what I'm going to do. It's always on a whim. Which Aizawa sighs. So, everyone will go to their canon, internships, choose them. As then midnight comes in, and she goes, hello, students. Today we're going to basically choose your hero names. As everyone basically choose their names, as they say, now it's for your turn. As basically Izuku comes up and he basically stops, he's like, wait a minute, does everyone know I'm who I am? I kind of forgot basically if I said this part or not, so if I didn't then, well, yeah. Okay, so I'm just basically, gonna say this again, just in case. Which, some people about what he was like, oh, my name. Jack Frost isn't my name, right? Well, yes and no. Which they're like, then what is your name? Someone will ask. Because, he looks at this person, I would think it's, Sugar Rush, because or basically, Ojiro, the tail guy, basically, just apologized because he says he kind of forgot. But she goes like, I'm only going to tell you guys my first name, Izuku. Which was like, Izuku? He goes, yep, that's all I can remember of my name. Maybe I didn't tell you guys. Sorry about that. I sometimes have way too much fun and I kind of forget about it. As he smiles, as everyone just kind of blinks. Some girls do blush at that, but Izuku basically doesn't really care since he basically does notice then he's like, just kind of sighs, he'd be like, teenagers, I'm 18 years old. Stuck permanently 18, but still. I'm the same age as Rumi, so yeah. So basically when Izuku comes up, she goes, well then Izuku, can you basically tell us basically your hero name? He goes, well, everyone knows me as Jack Frost, so as he basically just puts, he already had the name on the basically boy, he goes, Jack Frost. Simple, sweet, right to the point, Which basically he goes, well, since everyone's going to call you that anyways. He goes, yeah, pretty much. That was my vigilante name, so why change it? And basically Aizawa nods, he was like, to be fair, we have multiple some villains coming basically to the police station and turn themselves in. Which he's like, really? I didn't know I made this much of a big impact in Japan. Which ones were they? Were the ones when I basically had a snowball fight with them, and then basically all of a sudden the snowballs turned to basically, grew ice teeth and basically start trying to chomp on them? But in actuality, they melt right away when they basically bite into the arms. In which Aizawa points, he goes like, there was that group of villains, yes. They said it was kind of, it was fun for a while until that happened. And after a good scare, they kind of laugh it off every time. But since you're, at UA, he was, yeah, let me guess, they decided to, change their ways a bit. Which he basically nodded. He was like, yeah. Oh, by the way, about those kids that you mentioned. Which Izuku, gets immediately, well, not serious, but looks at him. He was like, what about them? He was, oh, I found out some contacts from America that I had. Turns out Stars and Stripes adopted them after you left. Which Izuku's eyes widened and smiled. He goes, really? So that means, he goes, yep. They're going to regular school for a while until basically bullying happened. They became homeschooled for a bit and then went back to school. Which basically Zuko just smiles brightly. He was like, at least they can finally become heroes now. In which basically I would think Sue asked, Izuku, what do you mean by that? Which, she would say Karo afterwards, was Izuku just look at Sue and just like, some kids basically I helped out. I helped out basically steal to survive, basically. And amongst other things. I wasn't gonna let no kids starve to death, so help them out. And after basically when Christmas, happened, I gave them a good Christmas party. And basically, for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, I had to leave. I'm glad Stars and Stripes found them. In which I was like, yeah, when I asked her how she found them, she said there was a sign or a pathway showing, which Izuku smiles and goes like, well, we did have basically a race with sleds on snow, as he just laughs it off, which Aizawa just like blinks and goes like, of course. So, basically everyone's like, what? Which basically Todoroki like, so the main reason why they were all, which Izuku just sighs like, parents abandoned them, kicked them out, or basically were killed. So those six, I basically sort of helped raise or look after them. And basically, because all their quirks were villainous. I didn't treat them no different. In which everyone's eyes widened, which people would just look at him in shock. Goes like, wait, villainous? He goes, yeah. They didn't tell me precisely what their quirks were called, but let's just say a few of them had basically, one of them had a quirk for poison because it was obvious. Another one basically had a quirk for basically, how should I say this? It was a quirk for basically paralyzing someone. But the fact is, the quirk wasn't really that, dangerous. It made it look like basically they were paralyzed and they basically were, dead. But in actuality, they basically just paralyzed someone so they couldn't move. So, some people thought that was a villainous quirk. And basically, Zuko just shrugs. The rest of them I don't really basically know since they wouldn't tell me or ever use their quirks. I only found out about those two on accident. Since there were some heroes that were, not so kind, along with some villains, and some regular people. In which as I was blinking, he was like, oh, so none of them died? He goes, nope. The poison one basically always uses the poison as a distraction because he made a mist and yelled that was a poison mist. He never tried to kill no one. Good kid. Good heart. I almost went down basically a dark path until I came along. After I started treating them like normal kids, they all brightened up. And I'm just glad now, basically, they have someone to look after them. In which, basically, Aizawa just nods and basically made it like, oh my god, that's so sweet of you. I'm glad, basically, those kids can have a normal life now. I'm like, Izuku's like, just, does that, and he goes like, yep. Well, they don't want to be the top 10. They just want to help out people so they never end up like them. After all, I helped them realize their dreams. In which, basically, that raises an eyebrow for everyone. He goes like, I kind of inspire them to want to be heroes again. As he takes a nervous chuckle, rubbing the back of his head. And so after everyone, after all of that, Aizawa just says in his health, to himself in his head, basically "Huh, wow, he does more good when he was a vigilante. Maybe I should let him basically go out there and still do his thing around the world." I'm gonna hear it from Nezudo and maybe some of the Hero Commission. Right, give me a minute. Okay, so basically though, and then Aizawa says, thinks to himself, maybe I could take him out on some of my night patrols and see what he can really do. Then basically he looks at Izuku, he's like, "Hey, kid." He's like, "Hmm? Yeah, sensei? Do you even need to sleep?" I'm curious about that. What Izuku was thinking about, he was like, "Not really. I don't sleep that much. It's been a couple of years since I slept." Huh. I think I only slept for about maybe 8 hours worth, and then I've been up ever since. It was like, when was this? He basically shrugs like a couple years ago. I think it was 2 or a year ago. Which basically that makes everyone blink. Again, just like everyone basically blinking as I was like, "Huh. Wow." He goes, "Yeah, I do take short naps though from time to time. So, got plenty of work I need to do around the world during basically the fall time of year. But since it's basically summer, don't really have to basically be, much around anywhere, so." And basically everyone just nods slowly to that. And so, after that, everyone basically is, talking about where they're gonna go and such. As basically Zuko looks at Zawa and goes like, "So, when can I leave?" Which he goes, "Anytime you want." Which he goes, "Cool. I'm gonna pack up my bags and I'm gonna head out there soon. Gotta give me an hour or two." Which Aizawa just nods. So, after basically that, he does pack up his bags. He basically tells Aizawa he's leaving. He even calls up basically his mom and dad, telling them he's gonna basically be going to basically Rumi's agency. And they basically tell him good luck. The father just kind of telling him be careful. If you get hurt, basically get out of there as quickly as possible. Just worrying about him, which he basically Zuko's like, "Huh, when did he become a mother hen?" Which he's like, "Okay, Dad, stop worrying about me. I'm gonna be fine. It's me you're talking about." He goes, that was making me even more worried about you." In which Ray basically was actually in the exact same room. Which basically she's like, "Sweetie, he can handle himself." He was like, I don't want to lose him." Which he's like, basically Zuko's like, "Wow, I really, really affected him this much when I died. Huh. Wow. I feel a little bit guilty." Anyway, basically Zuko just sighs like, "Okay, I promise. I'll try to be careful for what I'm gonna do, okay? But I'm not gonna basically if I go to train and I get hurt, I'm not gonna basically promise I'm not gonna get hurt while training. I bet Rumi basically got a lot stronger, so I gotta basically at least go all out." And Warriors basically Endeavor just sighs and like, "Just try your best to not get hurt, please." He goes, I know. He says, "Love you guys." As they say, "Love you too." As he hangs up, he goes, "Wow, that feels different after so long." So, after that, Zuko basically does take the train to Mirko's agency, and Ida's there on the train, which he does know something's wrong with Ida, and basically they do have that little conversation, but then he basically gets off, and Zuko would basically kind of decide to look up basically about his brother, which he's like, what was basically his brother's name? And I would think he basically, while they were talking to Zuko, did say during during basically the talk, what was his brother's name? and was Ingenium. So basically, Izuku looks that up, and well, he sees basically what the article what happened to Ingenium, and Izuku sighs and be like, well, he's gonna go after revenge. Great. He basically puts the phone away. We now go to the villain, well, HQ, the League of Villains HQ, as basically Shigaraki has Stain there, as he goes, hello there, Stain. Like, I don't know why I said that part like that. And which he's like, huh, who are you? He goes, my name is Shigaraki. It's a pleasure to meet you. I basically would like to, well, ask you to, if you could get rid of somebody for me. In which he's like, who? He was like, well, just a kid. Snot-nosed brat, if you want to call him that. As basically shows Izuku's picture. He goes, his name is Jack Frost. Don't know why he's named that. Kind of a stupid name if you ask me. But I basically want you to try to get rid of him out of the picture, if you so to speak, if you can. As basically he's glaring at Shigaraki, Stain. I mean, he was like, this is just a, well, he was just on the broadcast as the hero training. Well, not hero training, the basically sports festival, I mean. He's a hero in training. He was like, true, but he's a pain in my side. After all, he was the one that was at the USJ. And as basically Shigaraki scratched his neck, he was like, he ruined my plans. In which basically Stain's eyes widen, and then he looks at the picture again. And then, because he saw Izuku's basically personality, he basically doesn't like it. He thinks he's a fake. And he was like, also, there's a hero that he may be after. Mirko. In which Stain looks at the picture and, well, again, he glares even harder at that because in his mind, Mirko ain't basically a hero. Because her want for battle and such, even though she goes out and saves people, she does do the autographs, it does do basically what heroes would do, but, because of this, because of her battle, personality, he basically thinks she's not basically a hero. But he basically would just say, I'm not going to go after someone who's at the top 10 right away. I'm not strong enough to face against her. In which Shigaraki just kind of growls. He goes like, they go after the kid then. I don't care. In which basically that's when the whole interaction with, fight between Stain and Shigaraki happens. And Stain has to leave. So then Shigaraki was like, can't believe that failed. But maybe we can use him still. Draw them out. Both of them. Two thorns in our side. As unknown to Izuku, but Mirko has been looking into the villains, or the League of Villains for a while now due to, Izuku's basically fight with them as she's not letting Izuku get into any dangerous situations. So, basically, because of her loss for Izuku, I can relatively say she's basically again tried to get every single measure or try to get basically any any information she can, so basically she can have the other heroes basically help her get rid of this group as quickly as possible, because if she knows Izuku, she knows he's gonna rush right into them if it basically causes other people's lives in danger. And he's not going to hesitate. She doesn't care how strong he is. She just doesn't want him to get, hurt anymore or even worse. So, yeah. So, basically, this Kirigiri will be like, I have an idea, Master Shigaraki. He goes, really? Tell me, Kirigiri. As, yeah, that, I forgot the where basically what this where it was in the patrol was happening, where basically the incident of the stain arc happens, where basically the no moves are there and such. But it happens in that city. So while basically while that was happening, Zuko does find Miroko's agency and enters, and he just whistles. He goes like, "Wow, nice place she has here." He basically has his bag hanging basically off of his shepherd's staff or cane, basically. Well, not cane. Well, yeah, just staff basically. As he basically sees the receptionist, goes like, "Ah, so you're the UA student that's internal with us." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Well then, Jack. Well, real name is Zuko. Welcome." He goes, "Thanks. Where's Mirako?" Which he basically thinks to himself. He goes like, "I'm never gonna get used to saying that." She basically receptionist goes like, "Right this way," as they take him to Mirako's office. As basically when he gets there, they see Mirako kicking basically a punching bag, as it kind of goes flying off the hinges into basically a mat on the side, which Izuku just kind of grins. He goes like, "I was right. You did get stronger." In which basically when Mirako hears that, she basically has that battle maniac grin on. She goes, "There's basically my rookie." Which Izuku rolls his eyes, and basically the receptionist asks if she needs anything, which Mirko's like, "Nah, I'll handle it." So basically she does nod and basically leaves. When the door closed, basically Izuku looked at it to see if it actually was fully closed or not, and then before he would say anything to Mirako, aka Rumi, she just comes in and hugs him immediately. As that caught Zuko a little bit surprised, but then he just hugged her back. He goes, uh, "When did you become such a hugger?" She goes, "Don't you remember I've always been hugging you?" He goes, "Yeah, you always want me to hug you for some reason." As he has a smirk, as her face gets a little bit red, she goes, "Shut it." As they, stop hugging, he goes, "So, let me guess. You want to basically see how basically much I improved on?" She goes, "Uh-huh." He goes, "Well, my hand-to-hand combat skills are, maybe a little bit rusty. I basically did still practice them. But I've mostly been using basically my ice powers mostly." Which she kind of gets a little bit, she kind of glares at him a bit. She goes, "Why did you not train with them?" He goes, "I didn't run into any big shot villains. A lot of basically the lower level villains were just easily knocked out easily, so I stopped doing it." So basically, she would say he didn't have a real challenge after all these years. He goes, "Yeah, pretty much." "So, you want to spar like the good old days?" She does grin like, "Yeah." Well, basically, Zuko just kind of smirks. She goes, "Let me go basically change in my, training gear then." She goes, "You still have them?" He goes, "Well, they may be out of style, but, still works." Which basically she kind of chuckles at that. Goes, "Yeah, surprising that you basically always had basically, black shorts and basically a blue shirt with snowflakes on it." Which basically Izuku would chuckle at that. He was like, "Yeah, he always used to call him, every time I wore that shirt, he always called me Snowy or something. Stupid." She goes, "Hey, nicknames I gave you weren't stupid." As he just looks at her, goes like mine wasn't. She goes, "You only call me by my quirk." He goes, "What?" "I mean, you're a rabbit, so why not just call you Bunny?" As her face gets a little red at that, he smirks again. He goes, "Just show me to my room, I'll change then." She goes, "Fine." She thinks, to herself, like, how does he always do that? So, in a sense, Izuku, gets shown to his room. He changes, and then basically he comes out basically in his, outfit. She goes like, "So, still no sneakers on?" She looks down and goes like, most people don't even see it. When they do, I just tell them I can't wear sneakers. My quirk basically freezes them and they always shatter, so. And they don't believe me until I just say, alright, give me one of your shoes. And when she goes, don't tell me, he goes, yep, they freeze. She just sighs again, so you always get in places still? He goes, yeah. So don't basically mind it, I still can control it. She goes, so you just shattered the shoes on purpose? I didn't have no money to buy shoes. Besides, I was given basically not old clothes, basically, you know who, but I was given the hoodie though. That makes my own pants. It's always a shame though. She was, what, stuck like this? I was really hoping to age and get old. Have a family. Which Rumi went on, he goes like, yeah. Hey, Izuku. Which he basically looks at with her eyebrow raised. She goes, when we're not busy patrolling or basically training, and I'm not busy working, do you want to, which Izuku just like, oh? Are you sure you want to basically ask that? After all, I mean, I did say I was 15 years old. She goes, I'm just saying you want to hang out, not. She goes, oh, not a date. Oh, well, I was hoping for one, though. As she stops and looks at him. She goes, you, which he just starts laughing at her. She goes, what's so funny? It was like, you never stuttered. That's what's so funny. Which her face gets even redder. And he just kind of, when she looks at him, she just sees that look of look of bliss on his face. And she realized he missed this. She just says, you look really happy. And when she goes, oh, I do? I guess I just really missed this interaction a lot. And basically she doesn't nod. No one was around, strangely enough. So they just basically walked to a train area. And boy, when she basically, trained with Izuku, he said he got rusty. It is true, but the fact is, while they were fighting, he kept on basically, getting back to his old skill level when basically they last fought, and then he, improved on it. But the fact was, he never basically used his quirk, as they always agreed on, and basically, though, he was smiling and basically having fun. She basically say to him, basically, why are you gonna take me seriously? He just looks at her and goes like, remember the last time I took you seriously? I broke your leg. She's, I can handle it now. I mean, then basically just shrugs. He goes like, alright then. And for that brief moment, basically, when he got serious, he actually just was saying, I'm only gonna get slightly serious. Okay? She does nod. Then she's ready. When he gets slightly serious, though, it's still kind of basically always weirds her out how he basically becomes serious 1 minute, then go back to being like the goofball idiot she knows that basically likes to have fun all the time. Well, the one that she got used to, but she didn't know in the past that he took things seriously, but he knew when to have fun, joke around, and basically enjoy life. But because of the way it changed, she understands that he's very much always trying to have fun. So, it still takes some things seriously, but still making it where it could be a game at times. So yeah, so when they fought this time, he does improve. Basically, like nothing ever changed, but the fact was, when she tried to basically do one of her attacks, basically an axe kick, he basically blocked it with one of his arms, basically used, the momentum going downwards with his right arm, basically then, I should say, using, it like that arm as a, where he basically just like stand on it, but he did kick her in the stomach, and then he just kept on kicking her as he basically moves his hands, as he just starts floating and kicking her, as She then basically gets sent flying when he spin kicks in midair, sent her basically, away as he lands on his feet. And he just smirks. He goes like, "So, are you regretting it now?" And then he sees that basically grin on her face, and she nods no. And basically, then she sees the grin on his face. He goes like, "Let's step it up a bit, huh?" She does nod as, basically, yeah, Izuku does need to train since she basically took him even more serious, and then he was, trying to become, you know, well, get more serious too. But the fact is, since he never fought people really much hand to hand combat, his strength has declined. Plus, he can never really, well, he never really tried to basically gain any, train really or work out much. So, yeah, he does get his butt kicked, and he's like, I hate that basically you're older. Well, we're the same age, but I'm stuck as 18. She then kind of smirks, but she does have basically some bruises on her, and she goes, "Finally beat you for once." He goes, "What do you mean beat me for once? We always tied, or basically I always get the one up on you, and you always get the one up on me." She goes, "True. Question for you." He goes, "Huh? Well, you never work out." He goes, which Izuku just shrugs to like, "What's the point? I'm stuck as 18 years old. I can't really do nothing." Which she does look in and goes like, "Have you tried?" In which he goes, "No." She goes, "Well, let's go to the gym and see." He goes, "Alright. But help me. I'm sore all over." She does smirk at him. She goes, "Alright." And she basically just carry him bridal style. He was like, "Ugh, this is embarrassing." She just laughing at his misery though. And for that, afterwards they basically go on patrols, train, hand to hand combat, improving on basically what he, could improve on, give him basically a martial arts style that, he doesn't use. And also basically he found out he, him working out does actually affect him, but the fact that he just gains no muscle. He goes, "This is cool. Feels good to see, work out again." And so Mirako does nod. So after that, it's the time for basically Stain's attack. That we know as him and, as basically Izuku told her about Ida, that he may be going after the hero killer. So we should probably go to where he's last located. Which, basically, I'm going to look up the name real quick. Okay, Hosu. I think that was the name of it. Since he was in Hosu City. So, yeah. Anyways, that's a miracle and nod. And so he goes, "So, since technically my quirk isn't really a quirk anymore, I can go fight him, right?" She just looks at him and just sighs, like, "Fine, just basically freezing one of your body parts or breaking your bones this time around." And he goes, "Hey, last internship I had wasn't that bad." She goes, "Last internship you had, you nearly basically froze like half of your body over." He goes, "Well, the villain was really hard to beat. I mean, I had to protect the hero I was with. I mean, they thanked me and apologized." And basically she decides, like, "I had to come to your house, give you homework for like 2 weeks. So you can basically move both your leg and arm." He goes, "True. Thanks for that again." She just sighs and goes like, "Idiot." And he just shrugs it off. And so basically, they're walking together. Basically, Zuko has made a name for himself as Jack Frost. Some people basically, wave to him. He waves at them. While they're getting on the train, basically, Zuko's standing, or basically Rumi's sitting. She goes, "So, Jack." He goes, "Yeah, Mirako? We have planned today." He goes, "Nothing much. Just the usual. It's basically whatever I need to do." train, sleep, eat. She goes, you sleep? He goes, yeah, sometimes. I've been trying to sleep lately, though. She goes, why? He goes, reasons. He's looking at her. And she just basically looking at him and just basically like, oh, yeah, training. He goes, exactly. And so, basically, while they're on the train, all of a sudden something does crash into it. As Itsuku basically immediately, turns around because it was right behind him. As Nomu is about to screech, as Itsuku just has his hand up, and all of a sudden the whole entire Nomu freezes over. As it blinks while it's in ice. He goes, stupid creatures. Which everyone's like, what the? Did you just? He goes, don't worry, people. It's not alive. It's a weird, basically, monster called Nomu. But it's different from the last one, though. As basically, Zuko just kind of kicks it over the edge and it just falls off, unknowingly cracking it. So, I'm into ice. So basically, Mirako looks at him. He just nods. She jumps off onto the rooftops while he just basically just jumps and flies. And she basically looks at him and goes like, you know what to do, right? He goes, uh-huh. Save civilians, keep them safe, stop whatever buildings on fire. She goes, right. So, Azuku basically just says, want me to go ahead? She goes, uh-huh. Just save some of the action for me, huh? He goes, I will. Don't worry. Basically, he flies off, basically, as the wind picked up. As she just sighs and like, I'm glad he's basically back. I really am. Hopefully he doesn't get into danger this time. So, while Zuko's flying, towards it, he sees a whole bunch of Nomus there as, well, some civilians about to get hurt as all of a sudden Zuko basically has ice appear as they turn the lances, and he just shoots them downwards. Or, well, as like he's throwing them downwards as they basically pierce in basically the Nomu's bodies, as civilians are just in shock as he lands right in between the Nomus and basically the civilians. He goes, sorry for taking so long. Hopefully you guys can get out of here. As then he just snaps his fingers, and then all of a sudden ice golems appear. He goes like, these guys will get you to safety. As basically they say thank you as they run away. As then all of a sudden basically Nomu was going to come at basically him. He was about to basically, have his death covered in ice and try to slice it in half. But then all of a sudden he sees basically, fire basically hitting the Nomu. As he looks over as he goes, Endeavor, hey! He goes, Jack Frost. He goes, yep, the one and only. And, Todoroki? He goes, hello there. And then basically, I think I basically said Toya's name was Phoenix. Give me a minute. Nah. Okay, whatever Toya's name is, again, go back to basically part 1, which I'll make the playlist, and I will put it in, basically part 3 into the playlist when I basically get it uploaded. Okay? So yeah. I think I made the playlist though, but I don't really remember, so just in case, if I don't find it, I'll make it. But yeah. So, he goes, Jack Frost, which basically a silent look at each other to say, I thought you were going to go with the hero name basically you were going to be called. He goes, sorry, he thought basically since my vigilante name was Jack Frost, it was better. He goes, that makes sense. He goes, look, I can change it anytime I want, so I'll change it later. He just nods. And so, basically, and that was only a span of like a few seconds. So, as Endeavor just says, so these are the Nomus. The only way to basically get rid of them since they're already dead is basically to destroy the brain, right? He goes, yep, pretty much. I just didn't want to do that in front of civilians. Which he just nods and basically goes like, can you basically, stop the fire from spreading? He goes, on it. And then all of a sudden, basically his hand gets covered in ice. And then he just slams it on the ground, and all of a sudden, the ice basically spreads out onto the buildings and then covers all of them, and the whole entire buildings are not frozen, but the fire is. As he just smirks, he goes, I love how basically I always have control over it, what I want it to, hit or not. Which basically Toya's like, I'm amazed how you can freeze fire. It had to be really hot to basically to break free of it. So, after that, basically Nomus just screech at them as basically Endeavor says, get ready! As basically all three goes like, right. So yeah, they fought the Nomus. Todoroki's using fire and ice. Toya is basically using his fire and burning off like the Nomus. While Izuku is basically using basically what the buildings are covered in, because it would be like slightly iced, like frost on it. He basically using them to basically like shoot needles at them and then basically punching them in the face and with an ice fist. As they get sent flying into another one, as then all of a sudden ice spike comes in, basically hitting basically the Nomus in the head, killing them. He just basically, he's not smirking, he just sighs and be like, not even challenge. Oh well. Well. Let's make this a game. As then all of a sudden Izuku just runs to one, jumps over basically one of them trying to hit him. As then he lands, he goes like, miss me. Dodges another attack. Miss me again. Basically jumps backwards and basically he sees another Nomu was about to hit him. Then all of a sudden he just like disappears as they both hit each other's fist. And he's just like right on top of both of them. He's like, so close for both of you. And then all of a sudden he just jumps off of them as basically their foot their hands are frozen together. Well, I mean fists, not hands. And then all of a sudden, basically, he just swipes as in basically like an ice slash just kills both of the Nomus. Then all of a sudden, basically Izuku gets a distress beacon. We will basically go back to Mirako, as Mirako is basically jumping towards basically towards the fighting, as then all of a sudden she hears someone screams out in pain. And then basically she stops on the roof and follows the sound. As when she basically gets to the roof, she heard the noise. Basically, he hears basically someone says like, "No one's gonna save you, you fake hero." As Mirko's eyes wide, goes like, "Hero killer." As she basically gets a grin, jumps off, and tries to do basically axe kick to basically try to get the drop on the basically hero killer on Stain, basically, as he notices and jumps backwards, and when her foot hits the ground, it cracks it, and she just goes, knew it, got you. And he goes, Mirako, one of the top 10 heroes. I never expected you to be here. She goes, well, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to let you kill any more, basically, heroes, or even injure them. He goes, you're getting in my way, but it doesn't matter. I'll deal with you like I deal with everyone else, you fake hero. As she goes, whatever. Bring it on. As the fight would basically be Mirako trying to, kick Stain, as Stain trying to kick, not kick Mirako, trying to basically slash at her. She basically able to, use the tight space to her advantage by bouncing off of the walls. Basically able to, got a few punches and kicks in and such. And basically, because she basically did basically one kick that was knocked out someone normal, Stain does hit the wall. It looks like he gets knocked out. As basically, what happens is she smirks and basically looks at Native, and she basically runs up to him and goes like, hey, you alright? But she goes like, I can't move. And she goes, alright, don't, just basically, hold up, let me try to get, in contact with someone. And she's basically, about to, call for backup to get, basically any, basically try to save Native. Native basically sees Stain getting up, and he says too late, it's like, look out! As then all of a sudden, basically, she basically turns around, and Stain basically, able to get, Nick on her, as basically that's when she jumped back, as before she basically puts out a distress beacon, and that's when Stain decides to lift the blood. And now we go back to Izuku. Izuku basically gets the distress beacon, and he looks at Endeavor, and basically he goes, distress beacon! Which basically he just nods and go look for them. He just basically would nod and goes like, right. So basically, he would kind of run in a random direction. Basically, when he hears someone basically kind of scream, as in he basically has a bad feeling, as in all of a sudden, I basically he would run towards basically it, as in he hears a voice goes like, "How dare you get in my way, you stupid kid!" As then he hears basically the person's voice as it's Ida. He goes like, basically, "I'll kill you for what you did to my brother." He goes, "Huh? Who's your brother?" He goes, "Ingenium! You you made it where he can never become a hero." Again, as he goes, "Ingenium, he got in my way. So I had to basically do that to him." Basically, so as in Day and Ida says, basically, be quiet, don't say his name, you filth. As in basically Ida goes like, "Another fake hero." As when basically Izuku arrives, he basically sees Ida on the ground in the same way he was. As all of a sudden Izuku shoots out basically an ice, from his hand. As basically, Ida, well not Ida, but Stain would basically, notice it and basically jump over it, basically backwards and land. As Izuku just, kind of basically being there, he goes like, "Really, Ida? Come on, revenge of all things?" Man, that really does suck. Thought you were a smart one. He goes, "Jack, you shouldn't be here. This is my fight." In which basically he goes, "Nah, not really. This guy's mine." Well, he would say mine, but his basically thought would trail off. As then he basically looks and he sees Mirako. She's not badly injured, but she does have like a knife in her leg and basically one in her shoulder. As then she basically looks at him and has like a smile, but it's kind of weak. Goes, "Took you long enough." As then basically she knows to look, and he is angry, but the fact is that seriousness is there, and she knows. Oh, Stain, you basically brought out the beast. And then she has a mental smirk, and he goes, "The beast that basically made me," as then she kind of realized what she was about to say, and then her face gets red. Basically made her fall in love with him. As then Izuku legit looks at Stain with a glare and basically being serious. No humor in his look. No, nothing. As then his staff gets frozen, he just stabs it into the ground in front of Ida. As he basically says to Ida, "He's mine. You get in my way, then I'll make sure your legs are broken so you can't move." In which that shocks Ida. As basically, when Izuku's walking, basically starting to see his breath. As basically the side of the building are starting to freeze, slightly. Frost is coming on. He goes, "You who are basically a student who basically just think this is all fun and games." As there's no talk, there's no banter. As basically, he going on saying how you are fake, you deserve to become a hero. Basically, only All Might deserves to become a hero because he's a true hero. As then Izuku just says, "Are you done talking? I gotta basically break every bone of your body for what you did." As then basically, he just kind of I would say flex his fingers. He's curling them and they get cracking. In which basically Stain just, growls at him. Goes like, "Don't be cocky, you stupid." As basically, when he just says that, Zuko basically all of a sudden launch basically multiple ice needles at him. As Stain basically blocks some of them. Well, blocks most of them with his sword, as only 2 or 3 got through. As Zuko basically just starts to dash at him quickly. When he basically, is shot by Izuku's speed, because this is, speed still when he was 18, he trained a lot physically. He basically is thinking this kid's fast. As basically, Stain tries to basically, hit him, as Izuku just basically making ice in midair, blocking the attacks. As he is able to still slice through, but he's able to get out of the way and punch Stain in the face, which shocks by the strength that the kid has. As, wait, give me a minute. I need to put a log on the fire. So, as I was saying, Stain get punched in the face, and he realizes basically this kid's really strong. As then basically Stain, grabs a knife and tries to swipe at Izuku. Izuku basically, kind of basically leans back and dodges it. And basically, Spartan kicks Stain in the stomach, sending him flying into a wall. But Stain basically, flips backwards and lands on the wall, jumps basically towards Izuku with his sword. As Izuku basically legit just basically, as soon as the sword about to hit him, Stain seeing his hand basically coming towards the sword, as Stain thinks, "You idiot!" As then all of a sudden, basically the sword just basically starts to freeze and breaks. And then basically Izuku basically uses his right fist to basically uppercut Stain in the stomach since he was midair. As all of a sudden that catches him off guard, basically, and saliva comes out as Stain lands on his feet because he was still midair and backs away. As he basically sees the look of, still seriousness on his face. As he's saying he's different from before. Way different. As Izuku just says, "I'm not done with you, so come on, show me what you got here, killer." Yeah. Stain can tell, the kid's way different because there's coldness to his voice, not like the humor and, cheerfulness he would have had. And so Stain and Izuku keep on, trying to, Stain still tries to basically hit Izuku. The fact is, even though Stain pushed himself to basically to become this strong and such, to absolute, basically hellish training, the only reason why I'm saying Izuku basically, because he's taking Stain seriously. Stain thinks this is just some average kid. Now, since Izuku frozen his sword, broke it, and showing his strength, Stain is taking, Izuku serious now, and Izuku is starting to basically, only get slight, cuts on him, not enough to draw blood. So, when basically that doesn't work, all of a sudden he has an idea. He throws basically one of the knives at Ida. Izuku basically has a staff that's frozen, all of a sudden makes a wall around, a barrier around Ida, and it's protecting him as his eyes widen as all of a sudden ice hits Stain from the side of the face, it hits the wall again. And so, as he gets up glaring at Izuku basically, just looking at him with basically basically now martial arts style. And he just says, "This kid, he's only supposed to be 15, right?" So yeah. So basically, that still goes on for a bit. The fact is, Stain does get one lucky hit because, Izuku, was trying to make sure basically Rumi see if she's okay or not. As when basically that happens, all of a sudden, basically, Stain does, get a drop of blood, or some blood on his knife, and licks it. He thinks this is going to work, but since Izuku's in the state of life and death, it really won't work. If you really think about it, since he's technically still alive, but since he can become a spirit where no one can see him, so basically it's making him invisible, it doesn't work. Which, basically, Izuku raised up his eyebrow. He was like, "Was that supposed to do something?" He goes, "What? How the hell my quirk didn't work?" He goes, "Oh, so, I was supposed to become paralyzed. I see. That's how your quirk works. Let me guess, it also works with different blood types." Well, I mean, not works, but affected by it. Which Stain's eyes widen. He goes, "How did you..." Which Izuku kind of just, uses this opportunity. And then all of a sudden, I want to say is, basically the wind starts picking up around Izuku. And there is basically, going around him, which Stain basically his eyes widen when Izuku launches himself. He launches himself to become quick, and that's when a whole bunch of ice or frost is on the ground, following him. And then basically, he just basically hear, Izuku basically not say anything, but basically, imagine when Izuku basically all of a sudden is in front of Stain, he has his basically, I want to say, arms back a bit, and then he basically hits Stain with both hands right into Stain's chest, basically, as all the force of that basically hitting basically Stain with the added effect of the wind behind his attack. makes one of Stain's ribs puncture his lung as he gets sent flying, knocking out, finally knocking out Stain, as he just kind of basically just sighs in relief, and then basically runs over to Rumi first and basically takes out, the knives and just sighs and like, this is me. I only have enough bandages on me basically for one person. Sorry about this. She goes, just do it already. As he basically freezes, the wound. He goes, I can defrost it. I can basically make the, ice melt. I didn't make it that thick. Only enough to stop the blood. Sorry again. Just don't worry about it. Now get the other kid. He goes, right. So he goes over to Ida, does exactly the same thing, then goes over to basically to the fallen hero, patches him up, and basically, he basically grabs a rope and such, and ties up basically Stain. Now, from there, he basically carries Mirako on his back, while basically a golem, or a creation of Izuku, say like an ice figure, not ice figure, yeah, an ice golem, basically carries Ida and help out Native. And while basically he's also basically, while Zuko's also basically using basically like, I want to say like a whole bunch of little snowballs, like carrying Stain. Which she just sighs, like, this is embarrassing. When she goes, well, it's not really. Reminds me of the good old days. He's whispering this to her. She goes, what do you mean the good old days? I mean, every time when basically we trained together, you overworked yourself. I basically, carried you back, basically back to the school to recover, girl. And she goes, yeah, and then basically afterwards, you also fell onto basically a bed, and, your bed and such. And she just smirked. Well, Zuko smirked. She was like, yep, cracked ribs, forearms, and, this. Just, that's what you get for punching my leg at the time. He goes, still worth it. She goes, only you would say that. He goes, yeah. So after they come out of the alleyway, the heroes basically, came around, but Mirako is now standing though because she heard someone coming, so she told him to put her down. As Izuku basically have like the snowballs basically made Stain drop. Not roughly. He was careful. As meanwhile, Stain, everyone thinks Stain's unconscious because of Izuku, but meanwhile, Stain, seeing Izuku's actions for protecting basically everyone, but threatening basically, Ida, basically, kind of basically saying he wasn't really here, but then here basically their interaction with Mirako, something's clearing up, and he basically kind of figures something between them. He doesn't understand what, but I would say he recognizes Izuku's basically facial features up close, as he would remember basically every, a paper saying about a kid's death happened, and the picture was Izuku, as his eyes, he basically had his eyes wide, and he was like, he's still alive? But he looks like in the picture, 18. As he doesn't understand why, so the whole entire thing is, he was thinking of that, and so, in his mind, basically, if he knew Mirako, that means they were friends, and that's the reason why is he friended basically Ida, and he was basically serious right away because he hurt his friend. So, and now since he realized he was protecting Mirako, he basically, putting his life on the line to protect, someone he cares about. That does basically make him basically be a hero in Stain's eyes. True hero, yeah. It's maybe. So, I want to say this. So while that going on, he did see the heroes coming. Endeavor's there, along with basically, Phoenix. I'm just going to say Phoenix for now. And basically, the other most student, basically Todoroki, as basically some other random heroes that were in there in the anime or manga that were there. As they're just talking and basically what happened and such, and what happened to Mirko, and how basically she already told basically her intern student that he could fight and use his quirk, and which basically they just nod. That's when that Numu that Zuko froze, over, that was still alive, basically suddenly comes out of nowhere and just grabs grabs a Zuko. But in actuality, he was basically aiming for Mirko as Zuko pushed her to the side as he gets, taken. As basically everyone yells out basically Jack. And basically then that's when basically the whole entire incident with Stain happens. So the fact is, Stain still acknowledges Zuko as a, hero. Basically. And so he does exactly the same speech. Everyone gets frozen over, but the fact is, everyone should be afraid. But Zuko gets up, basically not. Well, he still feels fear. He still can feel fear, but the fact is, he, was not letting that basically hold him down. Like basically the fear basically of like when Toya was about to be falling into the water that would freeze him, or his own body being frozen over. He only he basically conquered basically fear, or let it basically help him basically pursue his goal. So after basically Stain does that and Zuko's walking towards him, they basically, and it goes away. Everyone realizes he passed out. Well, he's basically unconscious while standing up, and so after that they get him captured. They basically get everyone to basically the med bay, to a hospital nearby. Manuel is there, along with Endeavor, and Mirko is also in the hospital. Getting patched up and such, and basically getting disinfected and, patched up basically. So, as when the police person came in, there is Endeavor there, and Manuel, as I think this exact same speech would go on until Lohi would say, but since you were basically given permission to use your quirk, but what I was told, there is your situation is complicated. That's all I know. Which Zuko just says, yep, besides, Mirko here told me I could basically use it if I ever interact with Stain. Which he does not. He was like, well then, full credit will go to you. And she goes, don't really need it. Give it to Mirko or someone else. Which, that kind of shocks, basically, Manuel and the basically police dog, or chief. But not Endeavor or Mirko. And such, he goes, are you sure about this? He goes, just say it was an anonymous vigilante or something. Don't really need it. And so he would nod. And they do. Okay, so basically, let's just say this though. We do go a little bit forward in time to a press meeting when they asked about who captured the hero killer. They said a unknown vigilante did. Meanwhile, Stain does stay alive since we know he lives and he's in Taurus, but while he's going, he's conscious and he basically, is getting that, lung not pierced no more and the rib cage fixed. He does see the news of basically how they're saying, basically, how a vigilante came in and, captured the hero killer and left. Which, basically, that's shocking. He's thinking, basically, not going to give any credit. So someone asked, well, what if my sources tell me it wasn't basically the hero killer, it was someone else? Like a student, or basically it was a hero? Which, and basically he already, already came up with an idea for this. He goes, if it was then, whoever they are did not want to take the credit. In which, basically, in that report, asked why. He goes, all I can say is he didn't want the credit because he was just doing what was the right thing. And that was shocked Stain more because then he thinks, the kid didn't want the credit? I was wrong about him. He is a true hero. Jack Frost. I'll remember you. So yeah, now we go back at the hospital, back in time basically. To the, yeah. So, as Izuku basically looking at Mirko, as Mirko looking at him as they're basically, alone. It was so, everything's alright. She was, yep, maybe fine. Just a little patch up with some painkillers and no heavy, well, basically training. It's gonna be boring. Which Izuku just smiles. He was like, well, at least we can have movie nights. We can relax for a bit. You can watch me train. She goes, yeah, true. Like when we were still in high school. He goes, yeah. And basically, Izuku kind of just sighs, and courage basically comes in all of a sudden because, and truthfully, for these past couple, well, days, weeks, he basically was thinking of basically asking her, and he did talk to Tooth Fairy about it through call, as basically he's not gonna miss this opportunity. He goes, so, Rumi, look, I know I'm basically stuck as 18 and technically immortal, but, I just wanted to know something. She goes, huh? What is it? Which she's actually thinking, wait, is he actually going to do it? He goes, it's been a long time since I wanted to do this. It kind of ruined my chance because of, well, I sort of died. She nods slowly, was like, basically, she kind of sees his face getting a little bit red. He goes, he's about to basically say the words, but I do have to do something real quick, and I do have to look up her last name because I want to make sure. So give me a minute. Okay, the last name I'm going to butcher. So I'm going to try my best. So he says, Rumi Uzogam, Guy, it's basically G-I, so Guy, is it Uzugamiya? Hold up. Hearing like water sound. Don't know where. Okay, I found out where that sound was coming. I don't think it's nothing serious, so Uzugamiya, something like that. I'm not gonna spell it, but just if I can't say it right then, just ignore it. Then so it just says he just says that or just because I can't say it right, he just says Rumi, would you like to be my, as he just takes a gulp, he goes like, girlfriend? As basically he is not looking at her as because he has his eyes closed. All he can feel is basically someone just grabbing his jacket, and when he opens his eyes, all of a sudden he gets pulled in, and yeah, Mirko's kissing him. As his eyes widen, and basically, after a few minutes of the, because he would kiss back, basically as she then stops, she goes like, how's that for your answer? And then he just kind of smirks, he goes like, I think I got it. As then her face is red, she goes, took you long enough to ask. He goes, had amnesia for a long time. Can't blame me. As he has a soft smile, in which basically her face is, red though still, and she nods. As end of the day here, as basically Izuku's eyes wide, and he's like, oh no, please don't be Toya, please don't be Toya. As then, all of a sudden, when he looks, because Rumi's face was getting even redder, and what he sees is Endeavor! And the Easter Bunny, he's like, oh no, it's even worse. As the Easter Bunny is like, so, you asked out my daughter. He was like, yeah. Got a problem with that, you Easter kangaroo? He's like, just because you two were friends back in the past doesn't mean I'm not gonna try to kick your. As in basically Endeavor stops, he was like, I'm proud of you, son. You finally got the girl of your dreams. Which he's like, how do you know? How do you know she was my crush? He goes, your mother told me. He's like, don't you dare tell Toya. Or Fuyumi, or Natsumo. And she goes, I sent the picture. As all of a sudden, Zuko's face is bright red. He goes like, I hate you, you old man. And basically, Ruby's laughing. And she's just hugging Izuku. Basically, as at least if we can't deny this does look cute. He just sighs and just like, and he basically takes Endeavor's hand off his mouth. He goes like, I'll tell Santa and basically Sandman. You tell Tooth Fairy. He just got it. Also, he goes, huh? I'll basically see if we can talk to the Man of the Moon about this. Alright? Which he's like, huh? He goes, don't worry about it. You're not gonna lose her. After all, she waited this long for you. Do you really think I'm gonna let her basically, lose you again? Which basically Zuko's eyes widen because that means what he thinks he means. Then, yeah. So, after they leave, he just looks there and goes like, so, our little hangout's gonna be our first date, huh? She goes, yep. Better make it good. Hey, you also better make me basically my favorite food that you make. He goes, surprisingly, it's not carrots. She goes, you do make a good, basically, carrot cake, though. He just kind of chuckles at that. He goes, yeah, but telling your favorite food isn't carrots, though. I was always surprised by that. She just smirks. He goes like, uh-huh. It was never carrots. In which basically he goes, yeah, weirdly enough. It was chocolate apples. He goes, what? Chocolate and apples taste good. Yeah, especially when I make chocolate. But I'm making your second favorite. She goes, aw, wait, you still don't know how to make it? He's like, well, I mean, yeah. Katsudon. And then basically her eyes wide and she was like, okay, I kind of basically did say the chocolate apple ones are my favorite because of what you did to the chocolates, but you do realize your Katsudon is my favorite. When he smirks, he goes like, oh really? I didn't know my cook was that great. And then basically he has like a proud smile on his face and she just punches him in the arm. And then they just can't help but laugh. But she just says, so though, what are we gonna do about our situation when people found out? Which Zuko just shrugged and be like, hey, we could just tell them basically the truth. I found out I was actually basically, 18 years old. In which she was like, huh, alright. And so, they do have their little date, and it is time for them to go though, but they just always, are going to meet up, because Endeavor did invite, since Rumi does sort of live alone. She doesn't live with the Eastern Bunny, but he does own a place. She does live, she was invited to live with them, so she can be near basically Izuku, and so Ray and him basically can always talk to her if needed for any advice with Izuku. Because in truth, it was kind of with Endeavor's rocky relationship with Izuku, so he does need a lot of help to see basically how he was in the past and such, because he wasn't really focusing. So yeah. Anyways, but she accepted right away, and that's where we're going to leave it off, though. So you guys have a nice day, night, wherever you are, and hope you guys enjoyed this What If. Bye, everyone.